Okay guys, so for this video we're going to go ahead and go over the sphere and how to draw a sphere to be able to manipulate it and add the transitions to where it has a more 3D effect. So during class we did go over that I do want you guys to try your best to draw a sphere freehand and not necessarily trace it. And to get that effect, what you want to do, and yay, I got fingernails, so I'm excited about that. I know I had explained earlier that I had nubs, so woohoo! You guys don't have to see those anymore. Okay, so as far as the actual sphere is concerned, we're going to go ahead and freehand the sphere by moving your entire hand. So you want to make sure that you have the movement, not just where you place this part of your hand on the paper and do this. You need to move your entire hand, just for the fact being it will come out better, okay? So the way that I explain this is to pay attention to the tip of your pencil. And as you move it across like this, what you want to make sure is that you see it, and then the faster you move, just pay attention, you should start seeing the actual circle form just by the movement itself. The way that I like to explain it is when you take a glow stick and you pop it, you're at nighttime and you're spinning it round and round and round. It's the same concept. You can see it because of the fast movement. Also, I had mentioned during class that old school cartoonists, like when they would draw like Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and some of those, that's why you see them move their arm a lot. So they're moving their entire arm to get the actual shapes first, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with that movement. And I'm going to go ahead and kind of get it, and I get the feel, and I like the feel, so I put it down, and I actually get a few little areas. Once you have, like if you notice, I have kind of like double lines. If that one's not really right, then just erase it. So if you feel like that part is not as good as the other one, then just go ahead and move it like that. Now here for me, if I'm really being nitpicky, it kind of goes out. I kind of see a very light line here, which for me represents that circle better. That's why when you do a couple of lines, don't stick to just one, just do it as light as possible. So if you have to go and erase, then you can erase. Diameter size, I was saying to try to stick to about 1.5 to 2 inches for the practice. If mine is just a little bit smaller than that, that's just because I don't want to take up too much time. I want you guys to be able to get the concept in the video very quickly, and it will take me longer to shade it if it's a little bit bigger, okay? But about 2 inches. So if I was looking at this, I would probably actually be a little bit bigger. So I would probably, something about this size would be a little bit more comfortable for shading, okay? So I'm going to do a second one right next to it, and that way, one, you can see the movement again, and two, I'm actually going to use this one as the demonstration. And again, it is a little off, but I'll just go back and fix the spots that need to get fixed. So right here, you can come back here and make this a little bit more round. So basically that's just there just to eyeball it and say, like, what is wrong with it? What looks off? Even this part came out a little bit too much. So I'm going to bring this just a little tiny bit more in, and then erase, of course, the other line that I see here in the center. So I'm just going to take that off. Okay. So at this point now I'm going to show you guys how to separate the actual part of the sphere. So this is how I explained it in class. Try to follow this. If you've ever tried shading it without this, you might notice that there might be some areas that are a little bit off when it comes to the amount of grays you're applying. Remember, we talked about values on the last project, and we want to make sure we incorporate that part of the project in here. So now that you guys originally did this for the first one, where you did the different gray scales and so forth, and we had the different varieties, the values, so the different shades of gray, plus the transition. This right here is going to make sense when we do this part of the project. So I usually do it here off to the corner. I don't like it when people do it right in the center. It does not have that much of a 3D quality to it. So I would prefer that you guys have it off to the side somewhere, either here or it could be any corner really. Just stay away from doing it directly in the center, okay? So now what I'm going to do, and this is how I explained it in class, I'm going to do 3 little dots. Try to get it as even as possible in as far as distance in between each other. And those little dots are going to represent where I'm going to place my other circles that go around. So I'm going to do the same thing. And honestly, it'd probably be better if I do the one in the middle, because I can kind of eyeball the half, and then half of this, and then half of this, and just place your circle like that, just a little tiny dot. Okay, the lighter you are, the better. Mine is just a little bit darker. Try to do it lighter than this. They're just there as guides, guys, and I don't want them to show through when we do the shading. I'm doing them dark so you can see them on the camera. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna draw the circles to connect. If you're one of those that struggle to draw circles like these smaller ones freehand, then I do recommend doing the same process throughout here. Like go here, here, right in the center. Go here, here, right in the center. And so you'll repeat yourself a couple of times throughout the sphere itself if you need to do like the connect the dots. I know I can do it, so I'm not going to, but you are free to do that if it helps guide you with better distance around. Okay, and notice I'm kind of going back and forth until I kind of get that circle shape, but I'm using the circles that are already there as guides to know how far to go with those lines. So there's my other one, and then I'm going to do it again over here on this one. Now this is going to stay like this. This is a representation so you guys don't get lost, and you can always see the part where it's defined between each section. So I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to do this. I'll even erase this over here. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same process over here now. Now, even looking at it, I can notice that this part of my circle needs to come out a little bit more, so I'm going to fix it before I continue. If yours came out already great, because even if it's more egg shape and not necessarily circle, it's okay, because when you apply this effect to it, it's still going to have that 3D quality to it. So that's going to be up to you. If you think yours looks fine like that, leave it. Okay, I'm just doing it just for the sake of the purpose for the video. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing that I did over there. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to go ahead and start to connect. Now remember, I don't have to do those other little dots, but if it's for your purpose of guidance to make sure that it is a complete and as perfect as possible of a circle, then go for it. If you're not good at eyeballing. So I'm going to go all the way around and all the way around on this side. And then the same thing on this one, just go around until you go all the way. So that's already twice that you saw this process. You should have understood it by now, but if you need to watch it again, don't continue with the rest of the video, replay that part of the video so that way you can get a better understanding, okay? So now this is where the gray scale is going to make sense. So this is the first shape that I'm showing you guys as far as this part, and I want you to think of this as the gray scale. So pretty much all of these are going to be a different shade of gray, and we are going to make this the highlight. Like if my light is coming from here and hitting this perspective, which means that this part is going to be the darkest area. So now that I have that, what you're going to do is you are going to apply the shadow first. So we're going to start with our dark, just like we did on the grayscale, and I'm going to use circular motion all the way around my sphere. So I will just continue this. Right now I am not concentrating on applying transition. I am solely concentrating on making sure that this entire area is the same tone throughout the whole section. Okay, so I'm just going to take this and turn my paper. Remember, your paper is not glued to your table, so if it makes more sense and it feels more comfortable for you to work in this direction, do it. The only thing I recommend is that you work towards the light. So you notice that my direction of the strokes change. I've had students in the past, and I still have to go up to the edge here. So again, we're just concentrating on going and filling it. But I have had students in the past where I was going with that, is that they do this and they start here and they go like this, and then they just continue with that same stroke. But you always want to manipulate it and turn it. So it is a sphere, and we want that shadow to bend around the sphere. And if you're just going in those particular strokes, then I can guarantee you your sphere will look flat if you're not using the movements. And then I'm just going to work my way around this way. And, you know, I like showing how to do this first in a drawing class because I tend to get students, it's a drawing 2. But if you really think about it, because you only took Art 1 to get into the course, you know, I treat it as a drawing 1 because I do get a lot of students that have never practiced any kind of drawing skill. So we have to keep this simple basics. We're just doing the basics here. And I want you guys to all succeed. So if you have a lot more talent already, like you've already been drawing and you have the skill level when it comes to drawing, then if you want to play with these at the very end, once you see how to do the shading, you can always try on your second one, because you have to do 2 for the project. So you can manipulate the second one into an actual object itself. So you don't have to keep it just a sphere. You can turn it into like a little lollipop and things like that if you want to add some more variety to it. Okay, so now at this point I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start my second section, and I am going to apply another gray. So we're just getting a little bit lighter, going probably 2 values up on the scale. So this would be value 1, this would be like maybe 3 or 4, depending on how many boxes you did on yours, because some people did more, others did the 7, and then some people actually did less because they only fit like 6. So that just depends on you. So I'm going to go ahead and work that gray all the way around. I am not yet concentrating on the transition yet. Right now, it's like I said, I just want to make sure that that gray is the same all the way around. It's the same pressure. If you're already to the point where you understand about pressure and you can already at this point start adding the transition from that dark to the other gray and you want to lift it slowly, then that's fine. If you already get it, just don't lose the gray that we're originally working with. That's the problem when you go ahead, a step ahead, you will more than likely run the risk of making it too dark too fast. So circular motion is the way that we stroke the pencil, so that way it is a smoother form here. So I'm just going to go and just concentrate on moving my pencil with the circle. Notice I'm going round and round. I'm not keeping it flat by just taking it like this in this direction, because I want to move towards my light. So I'm going to go ahead and just bring this in. Again, I understand about the pressure point, so I am lifting the transition already. But for those of you guys that have never had experience, first fill that whole section and then you can go back and apply the transition from gray to gray. So now I do notice I didn't do it over here in this section. So I do have to go and apply the pressure in circular motion and lift it slowly until you match that other gray that's already here on this section, okay? So you notice I still have that light tone here, but it is transitioning now at this point where those areas are. So now I'm going to just concentrate on section by section. I'm going to try my best to get a little bit lighter. If you are struggling, like you accidentally get too dark, move your hand back on the pencil, okay? That's my biggest pet peeve, is that you don't have a variety. And honestly, like I kind of got a little too dark on that spot. So if this happens to you, I'm just going to remove just this spot that's right here, because this part I do like, but for me this is too dark. So just use your pencil. If you accidentally have some spaces that look a little uneven, use your pencil and tap it lightly, the eraser on the pencil, and make sure that you also move the pencil in a circular motion, so that way on the eraser it's on the clean part every time you tap. And then once your eraser gets dirty because you went all the way around, then either on a separate sheet of paper just clean it off, or on your clothes. Like I like to, if I'm wearing jeans, I like to rub that on the jeans, and it will remove the part of the eraser that is dirty, okay? So I'm just going to continue all the way around. I'm going to get as light as I can. And just a reminder that I am going to be posting these videos separate, so if you're watching this video thinking that I'm going to go over one of the other shapes, it's only for this shape. So each individual video will show that specific shape that I tag on Google Classroom. And if you accidentally are making this a little bit uneven, just solely go on the areas that you feel that don't match the other gray in that section. You don't have to go over the whole thing again. Kind of just be very, very picky on those little spots and only put the pencil on that. Also, if it's coming out scratchy and it's not smooth enough, it is more than likely because you are not using the side of your pencil. You're probably holding it too elevated. So hold it further back, go to the side of the graphite, so that way it becomes a lot smoother. So I'm just gonna go ahead and just work my way all the way around. Same thing over here. And now that I'm gonna work with the last section, the only thing that I can give you guys advice for would be to make sure that you erase a little bit of this line. Like for me, this is too dark. If I go on top of it with the other gray, it will definitely show through. So I'd rather just erase it slightly before, again, I take my gray into that section. Okay, so now last step is just to fill that little last area. So I'm gonna hold my pencil all the way from the back. If you're holding it like this with your finger on top, you're applying more pressure. If you're holding it like this to the side, then automatically it's less pressure. So if you are struggling with the very light lights, then make sure that you hold a pencil different. You notice that I'm pushing actually pretty hard here, and you can see how light that gray is. So circular motion, I'm gonna turn it this way because I'm gonna go upward in this direction. If you're not comfortable going towards the light in this direction, move your paper to the opposite way. And you can work this way. You can go from the dark to getting lighter and lighter and picking up the pressure. So whatever's more comfortable to you. I just wanna make sure that I see no lines. Everything has to have as clean of a transition as possible. Now after I have this, just in order to be able to fix it, because I do notice like this spot right here got a little too dark. It's like I said, if that happens to you, just tap it lightly. Do not erase the entire thing, because what's gonna happen is that you're going to kill the tooth of the paper, and that's not what we want. As soon as you mess up the little texture that this, especially working on copy paper, the little bit that it has, it's going to be very difficult to try to smooth out, okay? And also make sure you're using the clean parts of the eraser. Once they get dirty, clean it off on the side somewhere, so that way you're not adding, because if there's a graphite on that, it will release in those areas and just get darker. We don't want to smudge. That's another thing you have to be very careful of. So all we're doing is using the pencil. It's all about controlling pressure points, guys. It's very important to learn our materials. And the pencil you can actually do a lot with, so long as you learn how to properly use it. If I'm just taking the cheat way out and just getting a sheet of paper to manipulate it, because it's like I said, don't ever use your fingers to rub, because if you do that, you're putting the oil that you have on your hands on the chemical that's in the paper, and it will eventually yellow. So if you take such good care of your drawing, as far as drawing wise, and you do such a good job, eventually that paper is going to yellow and it's not going to look the same. So don't do that to yourself. Don't do such hard work and do that. And even with a paper, guys, it's still about the same as far as, they call them tortillas. See if I have one here. I'm not sure if I have one available, but you know, these we never use. I literally brought this just to show as an example. I think one of my kids used to use this for, and it's honestly made for charcoal. It's not for pencil, so I'm going to stress that. Do not use these, okay? Even if you do have them, you still use them as a pencil, but it just looks smudged and messy, and we're not going for that look. We're going for pencil only. But you still have to understand control. When I get the my students to use charcoal with these, you have to apply pressure, and then you lift the pressure just like you would a pencil. So if you stick to only smudging everything, you're never going to learn about actual pressure. So that's why it's important to start with this first, okay? Stay away from that until you understand all of the processes, and then later on when you're in a more advanced class, that would be a different story. All right, so this is pretty much it. You know, the only other thing, last thing honestly, that I would recommend where I see the mistake is the very edge does need to be cleaned up. So I'm gonna go and I'm gonna just make sure that the very edge is as clean as possible. So I'm just gonna touch it up at the very end once I'm finished. And it does make a difference, guys, because this is where I would want my actual, like I would sharpen my pencil to get a very fine point. And then I'm just going to go all the way around to make sure that I get a very crisp line, okay? And it does, at the end, you know, it pops, all right? So I'm not going to go over shadows just yet. I will mention that in every single video. It's going to be a separate video for shadows, which I will explain later. But for right now, this is what I need you guys to be able to do to submit to me and turn in, all right? So we'll see you in the next video.